Welcome to Depictions Media Radio.
You are looking for success with your business and products. Go with the best, the professional voice, Earl Thomas the Voice. I will create more money, clients, and success for you. Over 70 businesses chose my voice to advance their business, products, and profits. Look on my LinkedIn profile for 27 recommendations from satisfied clients. I look forward to hearing from you at dukeearl@shaw.ca. That's DUKEEARL @shaw.ca. I am Earl Thomas the Voice, creating vocal paradise for your exact needs.
So, we're back here on Business Expert Show, and we're speaking with a good friend and travel expert, podcaster, blogger, and published author, Ricky Shetty. He's author also of or I should say he's also more known as the Daddy Blogger. And he is actually on the world tour. And the reason why we want to speak to him today is because a lot of us out there, we're either trying to find a way to get our business put out there further by becoming a sponsor, or we may have projects that we're looking for sponsorships for. And Ricky is one of the experts with his world tour of getting sponsorships. So, you're in Costa Rica today, right?
Yes, Michael, it's so good to connect with you again. One of my good buddies from back in Vancouver, BC, Canada. So it's always a joy and a pleasure to talk with you, my friend.
Yeah.
We are currently in beautiful Arenal. It's famous for the volcano area. So we're in Arenal in Costa Rica. It's central Costa Rica, so in the center of the country. So we're loving it. We've been here for about 5 days in Costa Rica and traveling around the world for 15 months. So thanks for having me on your show today, Michael.
Yeah. So, let's get straight to this. So, you've traveled in how many countries now?
Yeah, so I personally have been to 80 countries on 6 continents. There's currently 193 United Nations member states, and one of our big goals is to the first family in human history to visit every single country in the world. So I'm personally at 80 countries on 6 continents. As of Costa Rica is my 80th country, and my kids have been to 28 countries on 4 continents, and my kids are 6 years old, 4 years old, and 2 years old. So 6, 4, and 2, and they're already world travelers. It's definitely a blessing to see the world through their eyes. So they're loving it. They're loving this travel journey just like we are.
Yeah. So I imagine, bringing the whole family with you and everything, that the expenses mount up, and some of the countries to travel through them probably get pretty expensive, right?
Yeah. So the way we break it down is I look at the world as a globe, right? So the world's a globe, and within the world is the continents, the 6 major continents, and you have the 3 expensive continents and the 3 cheap continents. 3 expensive continents include where you are right now, Canada and the U.S., right, North America. The other expensive continent is Europe, right? Western Europe's very expensive. And the third Western country or continent is Australia, Oceania, Australia and New Zealand area. So that's the expensive part of the world. So guess where we avoid? So over the 15-month journey, Michael, we haven't gone to one Western country. We've been focused on the 3 cheaper parts of the world. The 3 cheaper continents include Asia, Africa, and Latin America. So South America, Central America. So we left Vancouver, BC, Canada, where Michael and me know each other from, on December 6, 2016. We went to the Philippines, where my wife's from, and we spent like a good month there. Then we went to Hong Kong, China, to Dubai in the Middle East. Then we went to South Africa and Africa. Then we've been focused primarily this year has been about learning about Latin American culture. Back in Vancouver, honestly, I was very ignorant about South and Central America. And that's why we came here, and that's why we travel, is to learn and to educate ourselves about, South America, Central America. So over the last year, we've been Brazil, Argentina, Paraguay, Uruguay, French Guiana, Suriname, Guyana, Colombia, Uruguay, Colombia, Venezuela, then into Ecuador, Peru, Bolivia, Chile. And in Central America, we traveled overland from Mexico into Belize, and then into Guatemala, El Salvador, Honduras, Nicaragua, and now into Costa Rica. So when you ask me that question about expenses, yes, we are focused on the cheaper parts of the world because that's the only part of the world we can travel in, the cheaper part.
Okay. But either way, that still it still costs costs money because you still have a place here that you got to call home to pay for and all, like, which is in the expensive part of the world, right? So how do you gather? Go ahead.
Oh, no, what I was going to say is one of the reasons we funded the trip and one of the decisions we made was whether to sell our home. So Michael's actually been to our home in Vancouver, in Burnaby, actually 20 minutes out of downtown. We made a decision to actually sell it because we were considering, like, okay, how are we going to fund this trip, right? So I actually teach a system. It's called the 4 Steps to Travel the World. We can get to that, but it's 4 steps quickly are you got to save, you got to sell, you got to get sponsors, and you got to get salary on the road. So we actually sold our place. We sold our furniture, we sold our car, we sold our gadgets, all my event production stuff, my projectors and my video production equipment. I've sold a lot of our stuff when we left. So yeah, I don't actually have a home to go back to, Michael.
Well, we all know that you have lots of friends so you always have a home with at least one of us friends, right? So.
Yeah, of course, yes.
So okay, so you sold a bunch of things. That was one of the categories that you talked about. What about the sponsors? How did you manage that?
Yeah. So what I would say is these 4 steps. And by the way, sorry about the bad Wi-Fi. Apologies about the bad Wi-Fi. Life as a digital nomad means you're never going to have perfect Wi-Fi, so apologies if the Wi-Fi lags or cuts in and out. This is the struggle. This is a struggle with traveling. But in terms of those 4 steps,
yeah.
you got to, like, this is for people who want to travel like we are, right? Like for a year or more continuously. You got to start saving, right? Like maybe out of your monthly budget, whatever you're making, like $2,000-3,000 a month, maybe put aside like 50 to 100 a month, just like a small amount. And let's just say the round number, 100 a month, right? Put aside 100 a month towards your travel budget. Mm-hmm. And over the course of a year, that $100 will be like $1,200, right? And $1,200 will be able to buy you a ticket pretty much anywhere in the world. You can buy a ticket for about $1,200, right? So I would say start saving at least a minimum of 50 to 100 a month. And then if you wanted to sell, that would obviously help, especially if you sell a house in Vancouver, you're going to make a killing, and then you'll be able to travel with that alone for 6 months to a year. And then you asked me about the sponsorships.
Right.
So the key here, Michael, is to get either a travel blog started, travel podcast started, maybe a travel YouTube channel, and start growing your audience. I teach a system. It's called How to Make, Market, and Monetize a Blog. I'm a specialist in the area of blogging. I've been blogging for 5 years, and I built up a successful blog. And even in Vancouver, when I was there, I was doing a lot of sponsorships, getting local companies to work with and getting sponsors. And then I would obviously promote them through my network. Even Michael and me, we did some work together. He would do some video, and then I would promote him. And then we did some work with, like, we know a float house, for example, in White Rock, right? So we'd do a float there, and we would float, and then we'd promote this float house, right, to our community. We would drive cars, and then we would promote the cars to our community. Anything that a family would need, which is everything. Most families need real estate, and they need clothing, they need a car, they need schooling. Like basically whatever a family needs, we would promote it. We won't promote gambling. We won't promote drinking, alcohol, smoking, just because I'm a family-friendly blog, right? So
right.
How do you get sponsors? Firstly, the 3 steps. You got to build up your brand. You got to market the brand. You got to monetize the brand, right? So how do you do that? Build up a brand is like, obviously you got to figure out your purpose. You got to figure out your website, URL or domain name with 2 or 3 words. Pick out a mission statement. Figure out who is your audience, your target market, your avatar. Who is your ideal client? Marketing, you got to build up your following. Social media, obviously, email marketing, working with Michael, doing some video production, video marketing, YouTube marketing, doing interviews like what I'm doing right now with Michael. I'm marketing myself, right, through his show. Doing podcast interviews, doing traditional media like TV, print, radio, doing contests. Those are all ways to build up your audience. And how do you get sponsors? Well, you leverage your following to request to work with sponsors. You can do that through the tourism boards. So every major city in Canada, the US, they would have a tourism board. Let's use the example of San Francisco, okay? It's just easier. So San Francisco is in California. You write, I'll just give you an example of what I do. So I'm in Vancouver, and I'll be like, okay, I'm here in Vancouver, BC, Canada. I'm a dad. I have 3 kids. We travel around the world, and we're coming into San Francisco for 2 weeks on a 2-week vacation. We would love to work with some companies there by writing about them. We would like to write about some hotels in our area that are family-friendly. We would like to write about restaurants in the area that are family-friendly and do some attractions. And when I did this, for example, in San Francisco, the tourism board, they responded to me. They're like, okay, we'll put you up in a hotel. It's near Union Square. We'll give you some restaurant vouchers to try out some family-friendly restaurants, and we'll give you some sightseeing vouchers. So they gave me they gave us a hop on up of bus pass. We were able to do a hop on up of tour of the Bay Area. They gave us a cable car 7-day pass, so we were able to do unlimited cable car rides. They gave us a cruise of the Bay Area, like Alcatraz, and checking out the area, going under the Golden Gate Bridge. And then they gave us basically they gave us a booklet of vouchers that we can use for museums, like the Science Museum or attractions for the kids. So that would be an example of how you get sponsors. You write to the tourism board and you say, this is me. I'm coming here, and this is what I can offer. I can do a blog post, social media posts, a video tour, video blogs. So yeah, that's my quick summary of what I do to get sponsors, Michael.
Yeah. Okay. Since we're talking about sponsors, let me get to that for a quick second here. And you're listening to Depictions Media Radio here, and we're going to take a quick second, and we're going to get to some of our ad sponsors, and we'll be right back after these messages. Okay, so we're back here. We're talking with Daddy Blogger Ricky Shetty, and he is coming to us from Costa Rica. And you managed to find one of the better spots for Wi-Fi. It's at least we're able to have the conversation, right? Now, okay, so we're trying to, like, right now we're trying to broadcast, and you're in Costa Rica, where some of the services and things like that just aren't as fast as to say as they would be here in Vancouver, right? So how do you manage to keep a high quality podcast and your podcast and your blog? How do you manage to keep that up with limited Wi-Fi services?
Yeah, great question, Mike. This is one of the biggest struggles about traveling consistently and constantly in third world countries, especially if you're going to like Africa or Asia or Latin America. The Wi-Fi is not stable. You're going to have electricity outages and power outages, and the Wi-Fi will go out, and then you just have to deal with it. But these are some tips and suggestions for getting strong Wi-Fi. Firstly, what you can do, no matter where you're staying, you can stay in hotels, you can stay in resorts, you can stay in Airbnbs, you can stay in homestays. We stay in homestays. We stay in orphanages and volunteer there. We do hostels, and we stay in a family room in a hostel. We'll stay at Airbnbs. We'll stay in hotels and resorts. So no matter where we stay, especially if I have something urgent, like I have coaching calls, or I got to record my Udemy courses, or I got to do a digital conference, which I did last year. I did at a virtual summit. And for these important kind of needs, especially when you need Wi-Fi no matter what, you can email the accommodation, and you can say, can you do a quick speed test for me? And you just send them the link to a speed test, and then they just basically click go, and it will tell you how many, what's the upload speed, what's the download speed, and as long as it's about 15 to 20, you should be good. I'm currently broadcasting now at under 10 up and down. but it's fine even under 10 megabytes per second. So, but if you really want to do some good video streaming, then you need to have higher bandwidth. Some of the things that will affect the bandwidth are the time of day, the number of users, and the location from the router or the Wi-Fi network, right? So when I'm doing my coaching calls, mastermind groups, I'll typically sit close to the router. I'll do it at a time of day when there are not a lot of users on there, like especially at night. Obviously, like people are back in the hotel, they're on Netflix, they're on YouTube, they're doing Skype calls probably, right? So you're going to have interference, and also everyone using the network at the time, especially if you're video streaming like Netflix and YouTube kill it. So those would be my suggestions. There's also some things called co-working spaces. Michael and me were big advocates of the co-work model. You can do co-working spaces, and then they have private rooms for Skype call rooms. You can also stay in something called a digital nomad house. Digital nomad house is a place where a whole bunch of digital nomads live together and work together. So it's co-living and co-working. So we've done that in Nicaragua. We'll be doing that here in Costa Rica as well. So those are some suggestions, Michael. Co-working, co-living, digital nomad houses, and then obviously doing speed tests before you arrive.
Right. It sounds like all really, really awesome suggestions. Because just when you're doing the world tour like you are, and you're still trying to keep your business going, because that's also helping you fund your trip, right? So you got to be back in touch with those sponsors. So before we went on air, you were telling me something really cool about the place you're staying at. You said something about it was converted shipping containers or something like that. Is that right?
Yeah, shout out to our hosts. I always like giving shout outs to the people who are sponsoring us. So typically when we get sponsorships, we'll get the accommodation for free for 3 nights, sometimes up to a week. So 3 nights to a week, 3 to 7 days of free accommodation. In return for, I'll write a blog review, I'll do social media shares, I'll do a video tour of where we are, and I'll do shout outs on these kind of interviews, right? So I know you're recording both video and audio, but for the sake of the video people, you can actually see it right behind. For the sake of audio people, you'll have to kind of imagine how I'm describing it. But basically what it is 2 shipping containers, 2 different shipping containers, the ones that you'll see on those big cargo ships. And they actually brought them in here to this land, and they basically converted the shipping containers into rooms. So they basically divided the shipping container into 3 parts, and each shipping container has 3 rooms. A couple of them are privates, and then some of them are dorms. And basically, they've put in air conditioning, they put in toilets and showers in there, and beds, and it's quite comfortable in the shipping containers themselves. And Michael, you can put a link below to my video tour where I do a video tour of the walking around the shipping containers, walking into them, and it's quite cool to stay in these different kind of accommodations around the world as you travel as well.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll be sure to add that video link in our description for this particular interview. You're getting pretty seasoned at this, and it's pretty awesome to see someone who it's not like you had the uncle as a benefactor or something like that to help you get this started. So so let's talk about the humble beginnings of the Daddy Blogger. Is like how did you actually get that funded to begin with?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked me the whole financial side of things too, because one of the biggest barriers to people traveling the world is lack of money, right? So what we talked about earlier is that if you travel to cheaper parts of the world, you're going to be living for cheaper in these parts. You'll be traveling for cheaper than you would back in Canada. So let me give you some kind of numbers to break it down, and then we'll get into Daddy Blogger. But in Canada, like we'd be paying our mortgage. In Vancouver, our mortgage is quite expensive. And then we'd be paying for our car, right? We'd be paying for the car. We'd be paying for the insurance. We're paying for the gasoline. We'd be paying for food. We'd be paying for groceries, kids' curriculum, etc. It'd be way more than like $2,000 to $3,000 a month just on average, right? More than that. Here when we're traveling around South and Central America, we look at our daily budget as a family of 5 as about 50 to 70 US dollars per day. So 50 to 70 US dollars per day times 7, times 30 over the course of a month is about 1,500 to 2,000. Usually it's around 2,000 US per month. So how does that break down? Is basically like accommodation here. If you're traveling in like the US, you're going to get a hotel. Probably it's going to be at least 60 at a bare minimum, like a Motel 6. But most hotels are probably like 80 to 100 per night. Here in Nicaragua, El Salvador, Guatemala, it's like 20 US per night for a private room with 2 beds, private shower, air conditioned, center of town for 20 US dollars. So we need accommodation, 20 US dollars if we're paying, if we're not getting sponsored, right? 20 US dollars for that. Meals in Canada, you'll be spending about $10 for a meal at a restaurant or more. A nice restaurant, maybe 15, 20. Here, we'll be spending about 4, 5, 6 US dollars for a nice meal at a restaurant, right? So our meals will be about, $30 US roughly for the day. If we're eating nice. If we're cooking in a hostel, and if we're eating local street food, you can eat for about $15 a day for all 3 meals, breakfast, lunch, dinner. So it'll be a lot cheaper if you're eating street food, if you're eating more like food trucks or takeaways, right? If you're eating in a restaurant, obviously it'll be a little bit higher no matter where in the world you are, right? So if you're cooking at the hostels or hotels or the Airbnbs, again, you'll save you more money. Transport, okay. So a bus trip in Canada, US, just for a public bus in my own city will be about $3 for just a local bus. Here, you can take a 1-hour journey for $1 US. So a 3-hour trip would be $3 US. So I could travel across the whole country for like maybe $3 or $4 US for a whole country, like from west to east, north to south, right? So you got to look at the cost of travel and the cost of living. So I would rather travel in Southeast Asia or Latin America for cheaper. It costs me to live in Vancouver, paying off my mortgage, struggling to pay my car and struggling to pay for the gas. And we struggle a lot in Vancouver as a middle-class family. And we struggle on the road too. I mean, of course, we'll struggle here as well. But the struggles will be different. Like we struggle here with finances again. Like how do we keep it stable? How do we keep it consistent? We struggle with Wi-Fi. We struggle with socialization. Like how do we make sure that we have friends here? Like Michael and me, we're good buddies. We can just drive to each other's place in Vancouver and we can hang out at a coffee shop. Well, now we got to rely on Wi-Fi, technology, Skype, Google Hangouts, Zoom, Facebook Messenger, WhatsApp. So socialization's been tough while we're traveling. And of course, with our kids, how do we make sure they have good schooling and good friendships when we're traveling? So there are a lot of challenges, and I'm glad we can talk about that because you'll see the good stuff on social media. You'll see like, okay, people are on the beach and they have the Insta-worthy pictures, and they're drinking the mojitos, and you'll see the good stuff. But you won't see like the fighting with my wife. You won't see my kids throwing the toddler tantrums. You won't see my, the Wi-Fi is not working. You won't see the stress of like checking in and checking out and packing, unpacking. So there are a lot of challenges on the road, Michael. So yeah, feel free to ask any follow-up questions.
Yeah. So I'm glad you're being honest about that, and because most people think that everything's is a bed of roses, and then they're like, well, no, how that Ricky Shetty kind of lied to us, and he said it was all going to be good, but now you're breaking it down for people. That's pretty good. Diane Hume has a personal goal to help 1 million people find their dreams in abundance and fulfillment.
I just attended Diane Hume's bootcamp, Live Your Life Now. And what I can say, for one day, it's some kind of transformational experience all of us got. It's shifting our mind, and it's awesome. I won't tell you too much because you have to experience that. And it's about dreams, about relationships with yourself, about affirmations, and about going to the next level.
Come to the Dream Receivers Bootcamp and realize your dreams. Type in DianeHume.net right now. Welcome to Depictions Media Radio. So yeah, I wanted to ask you a bit about what some of the stressors are, and How do you, one of the challenges, because a lot of people listening, they have kids, and if they wanted to travel for an extended period of time, how would they get over that education hurdle for their kids? How are you tackling that?
Yeah, that's probably the biggest challenge we'll have as parents is like every mom, every dad wants the best education from a kid, right? We as parents, this is the biggest legacy we can leave our kids is a good education, a good, happy and healthy life, right? So, quick little backstory. My parents actually ended up divorcing. I had a broken childhood. I grew up quite shy. I was the most shy in high school, as Michael knows. And I had to do a lot of inner healing. I had to, go to a psychologist. I had to forgive my father for the divorce and forgive my parents for separating and get rid of all my anger. I had a lot of anger with my mom and dad. And even now, I still have some of that. Again, I'm being transparent with you guys here, listening and watching. Because we need that. There might be other people who are listening who also maybe going through a divorce or they have a broken family. And this is very normal. We live in a broken, dysfunctional family means there's more than one member. Every family is going to be dysfunctional to some degree.
Yeah.
My wife and me, we fight all the time, right? We have different interests. And my wife likes to travel slow. I like to travel fast. I like adventure. My wife likes, a stable, secure home. Our kids are different. Like my son is more shy. My daughter is super extroverted and sociable, right? So you just have to kind of realize there'll be challenges and difficulties. But in terms of your question about schooling, so I'm going to outline the different school approaches. Okay, Phil? So there's obviously traditional schooling, which is public or private, right? You're putting them in a traditional school, either public school, which is free, and in a lot of countries around the world that'll be free public schooling. Private schooling, you'll obviously have to pay out of pocket for a better educational system. Maybe it's private, people are reading forums, and you have maybe smaller classes. Maybe a better type of teaching. This is a personal decision, on private versus public schooling. That's traditional schooling. Then you have kind of contemporary schooling or modern schooling or kind of this kind of travel schooling approach. There's a few options within that. The one is homeschooling. Homeschooling means basically you're still following a curriculum, but you're doing it at home, right? So usually you have to register with your provincial or your state government to become a homeschooler. And they'll outline the curriculum you need for each grade, everything from elementary up to high school. And you just follow the curriculum to make sure that they get all the basics, like reading, the writing, arithmetic, the geography, the history, all the subjects that we need to learn in elementary and high school. And then there's homeschooling, and there's something called world schooling, which is teaching skills I mentioned, like economics and politics and religion and philosophy and all these traditional schooling, like calculus and trigonometry and mathematics and geography. We're teaching that through the world. Like obviously now that our kids are traveling, they understand geography much better than they would if they were sitting in Vancouver learning about Costa Rica or sitting in Vancouver learning about the Philippines, right? They've been to the Philippines, they've been to South Africa, they've been to Brazil, they've been to Colombia, and they understand these places through experience rather than through just memorization of a map. History, I mean, what better place is there to learn history than walking amongst the Inca or the Mayan or the Aztec ruins, or walking in Machu Picchu, or seeing Borobudur, or seeing Angkor Wat, or seeing the Taj Mahal, or the Great Wall of China, or these amazing man-made or natural beauty. That's how you learn history, right? By going there, and then when they're in the Inca area of Machu Picchu or the Mayan area of Chichen Itza, we'll teach them, okay, this is the Mayans, and this is the history. And why do all these people speak Spanish, Daddy? Well, or Mami, right? Then we'll teach them. Well, the Spanish, they're from a country called Spain. They invaded the area, right? Or they colonized this area. And then that's why everyone speaks Spanish here. And then they that's how it works. They didn't always speak Spanish. They learned Spanish because the people who colonized the place. So they're understanding, okay, they're getting it little by little, right? So this is world schooling. They're learning through the world. There's something called self-directed learning. Like, for example, when you see that your kids are interested in something, you nurture that. Like our son is really into astronomy and into planets and learning about outer space and the solar system. He loves watching YouTubes about that. So we just YouTube videos where nurturing that, okay, teaching about the planets and how the solar system works and how the Earth circles around the sun and all these kind of questions he has. My daughter isn't interested in that. She likes gymnastics and singing, and she's learning how to speak in public and do podcast interviews, and she's learning how to do karaoke and open mic. She actually just did open mic here in Costa Rica, where she sang in front of an audience of almost 50 to 60 people, and she's 5 years old, and she was singing, and everyone gave her a round of applause. And this is what she's interested in, so we'll nurture that part of her. And that's kind of like the self-directed learning approach, and then obviously the fusion of all of those models. So, and there's another option there with schooling is basically expats. So like a family that moves to another place, they'll become expats. They'll just put the kids in an international school or a local school. So if, for example, if we're living here in Costa Rica, we could just put our kids in a local school here where they'll be connected to other Costa Rican kids, and they'll be speaking Spanish, and they'll integrate quite quickly, right? Or we could put them in an international school where other foreigners who are living in Costa Rica are actually studying as well. But the language, the medium, educational medium, linguistic medium will be English, right? So either local school with a local dialect and language, or international school with English and other foreign kids, or a fusion, right? So that's kind of the spectrum of education and the different options in terms of which one a parent can choose.
Right. So that all makes sense. That and people need to learn how to find and look at those options, right? So, of course, you're traveling around the world. There's different cultures and things like that, and I know we touched on this a little bit about the food and things things that you're comfortable from living here in Vancouver, because you were born here in Vancouver, grew up here in Vancouver, and it's like, so yes. How do you keep those little bits of comfort with you while you're traveling?
I miss my Tim Hortons, Michael.
You're at a Tim Hortons.
I know, I missed it. I said I miss my Tim Hortons.
Oh, you missed Tim Hortons. Yes, yes. So,
yeah.
So, so how do you keep those little bits of comfort with you?
Yeah, you don't. There are no Tim Hortons in South America or Central America yet. They haven't expanded here yet. But you can get the equivalency, right? You can get your Timbit. They don't have Timbits, but they still have donut holes. Mm-hmm. Basically, a Timbit is a donut hole, like the inside of a donut. And you might not get the steep tea or like your favorite cup of coffee like they have at Starbucks or whatever. I mean, you look at the world now. It's being taken over by commercialism, right? So there's McDonald's in every corner of the world. In every continent, you'll find a McDonald's. In every continent, you'll find a Starbucks. Not in every country. They haven't expanded every country, but in every continent, with the exception of Antarctica, no McDonald's or Starbucks in Antarctica yet. But the other six countries, the other six continents, you'll find a McDonald's, a Burger King, the KFCs in North America, South America, Asia, Africa, Europe, and Oceania. You'll find your comforts, if you want to call it that. And sometimes you just need a Big Mac. You just need the comfort of a Big Mac and the taste of the secret sauce. You just need that because you just feel, haven't had a good burger not a good burger, but I haven't had a familiar burger in so long, right? So it is hard to find those creature comforts when you're traveling. But you can usually like those fast food outlets pretty much in every corner of the world.
Yeah. So, okay. So that's pretty interesting because everywhere for Antarctica you'll find one of those corporate labels, huh? That's pretty interesting.
Yes.
It's
yes.
Especially coming from the fact that you're also a branding expert, and it's like to be able to spread your brand like that. It's like, imagine daddy blogger signs on 6 different continents. So that would be pretty interesting, right?
Actually, yeah, it's already happened. It's already happened. I've been to all 6 continents, and I've taken my daddy blogger brand to every continent. I was very much a hyper local entrepreneur in Vancouver. I'd be running all these YVR brands. For those of you who don't know, YVR is the airport code. I would run YVR bloggers, YVR foodies, YVR dads, YVR authors, YVR marketers, YVR entrepreneurs, and YVR communities, and YVR whatever you want to name it, right? I was running all these groups, and I went from a local community brand to a global enterprise because I didn't want to be stuck in a suburb my whole life. I know you moved from the U.S. to Canada. You traveled a lot as well, and we'll have you on my show, Michael. But there's a danger, and as a parent, there's a danger of me being stuck in a suburb. I knew I was going to follow the pattern that a lot of parents face, which is, maybe you've been adventurous in your 20s, and that's done. Then you find a wife, you get married, then you have a baby, then you have 2, then you have 3, then you buy a house in the suburb. You stay in the house in the suburb for 20 years. Then your kids graduate, they move out, they go to university, they get married and have kids and start the cycle again. And you miss these formative memories that we really feel are important. Like now these travel memories, they're so crucial, their identities growing up, our kids, right? So we made a decision, like a very dramatic and drastic decision to leave comfort. You talked about comfort. We left comfort behind. We literally, there's, the comfort circle. It doesn't exist for us. there's no circle there.
Yeah. So
there's no box. What box, right? So what we don't get that anymore. We don't get the mindset of living in a suburb or taking our kids to daycare or like working crazy. Like we left the hamster wheel behind, and we're better for it. The hamster wheel wasn't for us. I mean, no judgment here. Some people like the 9 to 5. They like the comfort and security, and we like that too. Some degree, we miss that part of our lives. We miss having our home. We miss drive. I miss driving. Here I'm stuck on chicken buses most of the days we're traveling, right? But I miss jumping in my car, my Honda Civic, and driving, having the music on my podcast. That's one of the things I miss the most. Driving to the Tim Hortons drive-through, getting my steep tea, my Timbits, and then the simple things are the things you miss the most, right? So there's definitely challenges with this lifestyle, as there's with any lifestyle. So you got to pick your choice and make your choice, and then if you don't like it, like we didn't like living in the suburb of Vancouver, we didn't like the weather. I'm more of a sunny, hot weather guy. So I haven't worn pants since October of 2017. I only have shorts and t-shirts now. And I've been wearing shorts since October of 2017 to April of 2018. I've only worn shorts. I got rid of my pants, and I'm like, we're traveling in all these hot countries. Why do I need pants? And if I was in Vancouver in the winter, I'd be walking with an umbrella, walking with a jacket, wearing pants, and it wasn't my style. I'm a shorts and t-shirts guy, right? So I kind of like me and my wife said, like we could either just dream our dreams, or we can live our dreams, right? So our dream was to travel the world. You've been to my place, Michael. When you enter my place in Vancouver, you'll see all the vision boards through the hallway, and all the vision boards were about travel and seeing the world. And we did these vision boards every single year for 5 years continuously. We did that for 2012, 2013, 2014, 2015, 2016. On December 6, 2016, we left. It took 5 years of vision boarding, planning, before we were able to execute, see these vision boards become a reality. But now those vision boards aren't visions; they're accomplishments.
Right. So I got time for one last question here, and of course, here at Depictions Media, we're not just about how we're going to get business done. We're also about what the feelings and emotions are behind actually succeeding. So I'm going to ask you, that's the one last question is, so Ricky Shetty, world traveler, daddy blogger, published author, how does it feel to be you right now? What's that one really great feeling that you have right now?
I feel free. When I was living in a suburb of Vancouver, I felt stuck. As a domesticated, suburbanized dad. I was a domesticated, suburbanized dad. And now I'm a digital nomad dad who's broken free of the standards of society. And I feel free in many regards. I feel free spiritually. I feel free mentally, emotionally. I feel free in terms of the three big things. Getting that financial freedom, time freedom, and of course the location freedom. I'm still working, and in terms of the full financial freedom, I'm still working like crazy. Today, I didn't see any Costa Rica, Michael. I was sitting recording a Udemy course for 3 hours in my hostel, working for 3 hours, and then I had I interviewed 2 guests for my podcast. Now I'm on your show, and then after this, I'm actually jumping on Michelle Abraham's show, who we both know. So today was the day of work, and like I'm not on a typical vacation here. I am working and traveling, and this is the whole digital nomad label, if you want to call it that. A digital nomad works while traveling. So you got to remember the work part and not just the travel part, because if you just do the travel part, you're going to run out of money and then end up back home, right? So you got to do the work part, the travel part, find that balance. So it feels really good, Michael, but it also feels, stressful. It feels challenging. We're constantly trying to figure out, okay, how are we going to figure out how do we make the financial work for long term? How do we make the schooling work? How do we make sure my wife's happy? How do we make sure I'm happy? How do we make sure that Rianne's happy, Renzo's happy, Ryan's happy? We got 5 people who all need to be happy in the midst of traveling. How does all that happen without pieces falling apart, right? And my health suffers, right? I'm working out as much. We're not going to church as we used to back in Vancouver. We don't go on date nights as much as me and my wife used to back in Vancouver. So there are challenges that we're facing now, and it feels good overall, Michael, but definitely with the caveat of it will feel good, but it won't be perfect. It will never, ever be perfect this side of heaven. So you got to realize that, embrace the imperfection, and celebrate it and be grateful for it. The other big feeling I have right now is extreme gratitude. Thank you, God, for giving me this opportunity to travel and spend this quality time and to nurture my kids to be the best citizens so they, too, can impact this world and make it a better place.
Yeah. Great. So thank you for joining us today. It looks like you're having it's somewhat of a sunny day there in Costa Rica, and we want to thank all of our listening guests for joining in with us. And that's about all we have for today on this version of the Business Expert Show here on Depictions Media. Thank you again, Ricky, and we'll talk to you when you get back here to Vancouver, right? Okay.
Yeah, or Michael will have to join us. And make sure you check out our website as well, everyone, if you're interested in what we're doing. Once again, it's daddyblogger.com, and we write all about our travels on there. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to offer any of your listeners with a free coaching call to help you to get on the road and to make money traveling just like we are. And I'm really ready, willing, and able to help out any and all of your listeners and viewers. So thanks, everyone. Make sure you check out daddyblogger.com.
Yeah, and we'll make sure we put the daddyblogger.com link up on in our description also. Okay, so thanks again, Ricky. Bye for now. Have a show idea? Contact us at Depictions Media. Email your show idea to Michael at depictionsmedia.com today. Welcome to Depictions Media Radio.